This is WWE superstar Roman Reigns. It only takes a moment to make a moment. Take time to be a dad today.
Visit fatherhood.gov, brought to you by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services and the Ad Council.
Hey everyone, it's your host for the World Beat Show, Scott Duran, and I want you to join me every Saturday at 11 a.m., where I take you on a journey around the world and show you traditional and modern style world beat music. Music from Africa, Spain, France, Japan, China, heck, even songs and artists from the United States itself. So join me every Saturday at 11 a.m. only on the KSJE 90.9 FM.
This program is supported by San Juan Health Partners Urology, providing a wide range of personalized services for the whole family, including children. Our caring professionals are dedicated to helping meet your urology health needs with skill, experience, and service you need. For a complete listing of our services and to learn more, visit sanjuanhealthpartners.com or call 505-609-6300. San Juan Health Partners Urology, a division of San Juan Regional Medical Center. Minutes past 8 o'clock, Monday morning, May the 20th. Good morning, everyone. I'm Scott Michlin, and thank you for tuning in to KSJE 90.9 FM, the information and cultural beacon of the Four Corners, broadcasting from San Juan College. Special good morning also to our viewers who are joining us live this morning, watching the program on the KSJE Facebook page and YouTube channel. Welcome aboard, everyone. We are glad you're with us. Coming up in just a moment, my guests on the program from the city of Aztec. Aztec Mayor Victor Snover is here, and also Code Compliance Officer Andrew DiCamillo is here as well. We'll be talking to them in a few more seconds here on KSJE. Later on this hour, we will talk technology as we do on Mondays at 8:55 with Lewis Campbell from Synergy Computer Systems here in Farmington. That is coming up later this hour. At 9 a.m. after the news, Mick Hess will be here roving with the arts. Today, Mick is playing more selections from Mozart on the program, so we hope you'll join us and stay tuned for that as well. Connect with us, of course, on all forms of social media, Facebook and our channel on YouTube. Also, our Twitter pages and our Instagram page as well, KSJE 90.9 FM. And if you're looking for something to do this week or beyond, we invite you to check out the KSJE regional events calendar on our website at ksje.com. Lots of things that are going on, not just in San Juan County, but throughout the region. Grand opening of the recreation area in the Glade Run area is happening later on today. There's a whiskey tasting going on this week. The statewide torch relay for the Senior Olympics happening on May 23rd at the Bonnie Dallas Senior Center, so we want to invite you to that. This weekend, of course, is Riverfest at the Berg Park area along the Animas River in Farmington. Another great event. Begins on Friday, events on Saturday and Sunday, so I hope you'll join us for that at Riverfest. And many, many more events, as you can see as I scroll by the screen. If you're watching us this morning, you can see some of the many events we have, including the Jazz Jam on Wednesdays downtown at the Karen Ellsbury Art Studio. So lots of things to take advantage of here in San Juan County and the region. Just go to our website, ksje.com, and you can check that out. Let me turn to my guests who are here with me this morning. Welcome back to the KSJE microphones. Aztec Mayor Victor Snover is here. Mayor, good morning.
Good morning, Scott. Thanks for having me.
You bet. Thanks for coming back in. Also, you brought with you, as I mentioned, one of your co-compliance officers who is with us this morning, Andrew DiCamillo. Andrew, good morning to you.
Good morning.
Thank you for coming in as well.
Thank you.
Good to have you both with us and talk a little bit about things that are going on in the city of Aztec. And Mayor, let me start with you a little bit about an event and an issue, I think, that gets controversial when we talk about it, and that is the Second Amendment. And Aztec, to its credit, I think, has one of the only communities in New Mexico that has really taken a stand about this, and maybe different from a lot of other communities, specifically here in San Juan County, too.
Yeah, we have. It's that obviously is a very, very sensitive issue.
True.
Understandably, I get the idea and the excitement and the passion around the Second Amendment. It's one of those things that's guaranteed in our Constitution, and I personally am a gun owner. I served 22 years in our nation's military to protect those rights. And like I said, I do own guns. I think it's a great thing to have, to be able to own firearms and to bear arms, and I'm a supporter of the Second Amendment. But on the other hand, I don't think that these issues are as cut and dried as other folks, kind of try and, put them out there as being, it's this or that, it's one or the other, it's black or white. And I just don't see it that way. I think that there is room, and I think it's our responsibility to have sensible gun control measures on the books, especially in 2019.
Right. And the issue, I guess, that brought this to the forefront was the state legislature passing some gun legislation that a lot of folks in this area did not agree with, perhaps, and the governor signed it, and folks were very concerned about some of these pieces of legislation. I'm not sure if they actually read them, but they were concerned about them, and so we saw community after community passing ordinances. It wasn't really even just a resolution, I guess, not even an ordinance.
Right.
Just stating that they were in support of the Second Amendment and maybe some other language to that effect. It came before the city commission in Aztec, and there was a lot of certainly community involvement, to say the least.
To say the least. There was a lot of community involvement. We had a lot of folks exercise their First Amendment rights, come to our open meetings,
right,
and express, in many cases, their displeasure with what they believed was our position as a commission. And a lot of the language in some of these resolutions, and I didn't read every single one from every community in New Mexico that took it on, but the gist of it was that the communities or the municipalities or the counties, as it were not going to use any of their funds to enforce this law because they deemed it, unconstitutional. And my take, and I think a few other of the other commissioners, and the advice of our city attorney, was that, one, we're not in that business. We can't decide which laws we are or are not going to enforce. And we tried to make it clear that we are supportive of the Second Amendment. But at the end of the day, the governor signs the laws. We're expected to follow the laws. Our form of government is such that if you don't think that a law is constitutional, you challenge it in court. And in the meantime, you have to follow that law. And that's kind of where we were on it. So
seemed a bit premature to me, who's not a politician or anything of that matter, just a radio guy, to pass some of these things before maybe the law had even been signed by the governor and knew it was going to be in place, and then to see if it's even is constitutional or not. I imagine if it goes into effect July 1, on July 2, we'll probably get a court challenge.
There will likely, and I don't know anything specific to that, but I can imagine that there are groups that are poised to challenge the legality of that law and the constitutionality of that law, which is their right, which is kind of the whole thing that, at least from my perspective, as the mayor / commissioner, one of 5 commissioners in the city of Aztec, is that we have to, even when we don't agree with these things, or we think that a law is terrible, like some of the folks in this case believe so, or maybe it's poorly written, we can't just be, judge, jury, and executioner on these things. We have this form of government, this the legislature, the executive branch, the judiciary branch, and it's set up that way on purpose.
Right.
So
checks and balances.
So one branch will not have more influence than the other, hypothetically. And I think what got lost here, at least in Aztec, I can't speak for the others, is that a lot of folks had preconceived notions about what we were doing, based on political leanings or whatever, and we stopped talking to each other. And we were talking at each other. We were getting shouted at a little bit, and some very passionate people, which I respect and I understand that's their right to do, and I'm willing to sit all day long and hear those folks and hear them out. I just think it's important that we have a dialogue and that we kind of get rid of some of these preconceived notions, because I've heard folks saying that we outlawed guns in Aztec. Some of the crazier stuff that I've heard. But it's
Simply
not crazy
not
if you believe it.
Right.
If you have
Right.
like what you think is good information and that you have it by a good source, it seems reasonable. But that's the farthest thing from what we're trying to do. We're merely we're doing our job. We're supposed to support the laws of the state of New Mexico and apply them just like we would any other law. And that's all we're doing.
Right. And that's where things stand today.
And that's where things stand today.
And we'll see as these laws come into play, as we said, if there'll be some challenges or what have you, and some of these communities that have passed these ordinances, resolutions. Pardon me, I keep using the wrong term. If those stand or if they don't.
Yeah, and I have to say, Scott, I didn't enter this fray with this in mind or with this expectation, but I'm proud of our commission. I'm proud to say that we are one of the only communities at least in the Four Corners region, in San Juan County for sure. And I don't know about the state, but I believe in the state that has been, had one of these put in front of them, one of these resolutions, that we did not just kind of fall into lockstep and into line with some of the other communities. I don't doubt that there's imperfections in this law, just like every other law. And that's why we have the process. So I'm proud that we stood up to a lot of the pressure, and we kept our city out of danger of being litigated and being sued. And I think at the end of the day, we did the right thing. So.
Well, and I think I hope a lot of folks understand too that the city of Aztec, the community of Aztec, has a unique perspective on guns and gun violence from the situation and the incident that happened at Aztec High School. And I think they understand, or we should all understand, that some of the folks, and I know folks are very passionate on both sides of this issue, but for your community, it's a very unique perspective, and I think we need to respect that.
Yeah, and that's been kind of a mixed bag, and I have always tried to be, cautious about, I don't want to seem like I'm, the person that's trying to use that as fodder for gain, to stand for my position or to support my position, because honestly, that never even crossed my mind. I've felt this way, and I've had this position forever, but I do wish that folks would take a moment and just remember that, it's so easy for us to get on with our lives and to move, go to work and take care of our kids and paying our bills, to remember that just a little over a year and a half ago, we had 2 kids that were killed in our school by somebody that, and it varies. There's folks that say that these laws wouldn't have stopped this person from having a firearm. I don't know that. But either way, I think we have to do something. We have to do something to curtail the gun violence that we have in this country. And I think that the laws that were passed, the expanded background check and the domestic violence law, where you can't have a firearm if you've been convicted of a domestic violence crime, I think those are perfectly reasonable, and it's a step in the right direction and long overdue.
And I like what you said about having a dialogue, not just screaming at each other. I think that doesn't help anybody's side get their point across. Yeah,
and I've run across that with individuals in the city, and that's one thing about being a mayor of a small town and a city commissioner, that you are literally on the ground, at ground zero with these issues. I see folks in Safeway that days before were shouting at me or not, that were speaking to me at these different town halls and the city commission meetings. So we're moving through the world, day to day, literally rubbing elbows with some of the people that we disagree with passionately and others that we agree with. So to be able to take stances on these positions and articulate them, and be able to explain yourself, not just when you're sitting up on the dais at a city commission meeting and you seem to be kind of elevated of sorts above the fray, that, when you're picking up milk and eggs and you have someone ask you about it, to be able to have those conversations and treat each other with respect and with, decency, and, we're all just trying to make our way through this world and do the best job that we can. And since then, I've had a few conversations with folks, and we still walked away on opposite sides of the issue. But the important thing that that I got out of it was that we were able to have that conversation. While they still disagreed with me, and I still disagreed with them, we had a level of respect and appreciation for each other's position, and we can still see each other at Safeway or at the soccer field or at the high school award ceremony, and at least be, cordial to one another and respect one another and have, human decency to one another. And that's really, at the end of the day, what I think is the key, is that we can disagree and still, say hello to one another.
Right.
And that's what I'm hoping for.
I'm glad to hear you say that. I'm glad that happened. Hopefully it will happen more often.
I hope so too.
And as we all move forward, I think it would be a nice thing to see. But let me change topics just a little bit.
Sure.
I appreciate your thoughts on that, because there is also some good news to share, I think, for the city of Aztec, and some long in the works projects, which are hoping to maybe revitalize the city, help with economic development in the city. And that was some good news from the same state legislature that passed this other issue that we're talking about, some capital outlay monies. And so we're talking about the East Aztec arterial route that is getting a significant dose of funds, and the North Main Avenue extension project.
Right.
Those are the two that I'm aware of.
Excuse me.
And so East Aztec arterial, that's been in the works for years, a decade if we're not mistaken.
Yes, and it definitely precedes my tenure as city commissioner and mayor. And I'm very proud of this as well, because this is kind of the thing we go back to the state legislature for funds, annually. And unfortunately, with some issues with DOT and some of the other many moving parts in a big project like this, it got derailed a little bit, some appraisal issues, some environmental impact study issues, and we got kind of knocked off track. Unfortunately, it's happened more than once with this project. But thanks to the close relationship we've had with our state legislators, they've been very, very on board with us keeping this funding reappropriated and trying to get it finished. And I just want to kind of give them kudos and tip my hat to their efforts as well, because year in and year out, we're coming to them saying, hey, we need this money. We need you to reappropriate it. We had an issue. And to their credit, they understand that these things often happen with big state and federal projects, and they've been great partners, helping us get our funds reappropriated. And this particular year, we were also able to get an additional $3.1 million, which I'm hoping, and we talked a little bit about this off air, that barring any major catastrophes, knock on wood kind of thing,
right,
that we will have the funding to get this project finished.
Should be enough.
Yes.
Knock on wood.
Knock on wood. But, things always...
Right. I understand. We don't want to jinx it. But but the legislature came through with the money that was requested. And, of course, it helps when the state has money to do that with this year, which they did, and to kind of spread it around the state a little bit. But this has been a long overdue project, and the idea being to build this arterial route around downtown Aztec, try to get some of the heavy through truck traffic away from Main Avenue, and just kind of divert it around the east side of town there, and maybe spur some other development off of that new road.
And I anticipate there will be some development out there, service stations, things like that. But primarily, it's going to get the big truck traffic away from the downtown, our absolutely beautiful historic downtown Aztec, that is also getting ready to undergo some renovations and some transition. But the whole thought behind that is you got to get the big trucks from coming downtown before you can really do a lot with the downtown.
Sure. Right.
You come through and you're at a local business, and you can literally feel the buildings shaking, earthquake-like kind of thing, and it just becomes the norm. So the hope is to get that traffic around, and to kind of segue into the North Main extension. Our thought with the city is that, so we build this arterial bypass, quote unquote, and people start bypassing Aztec, and that's the fear.
Right.
So
it's not just going to be open to trucks. It's going to be open to everybody.
It's going to be open to everybody.
Right.
And so what can we do to get people to come downtown? And my thought process on this, and this is something that we've had this project, the North Main extension, the renderings have been done, I believe, since 2013. So we kind of literally dusted it off. Since I came on the commission, we've talked about it. Community development, Andrew's supervisor, Steven Saavedra, has talked about it. And we finally found the opportunity to ask for additional funding with this, with the big surplus we had at the state level. So what better time to request money than when you're flush with cash. So the idea is to have this underway kind of simultaneously while the bypass arterial route is being constructed as well. So when folks do continue to come through downtown, while they're waiting for that to finish, they're going to see this other, kind of exciting development happening. And that will be their reason to come down. They'll see something going on. They'll see other things being put in there. And it won't be one of those things where we have to be like, oh, yeah, well, now we have this other thing, even though you're used to driving around Aztec. But I promise it's better. Come down here. So to have that ready to go and something that they can visually kind of sink their teeth into, so to speak, while we're completing this other road project, I'm hoping it'll be kind of up on its own legs, and there'll be vendors and merchants and restaurants being put in there, and that'll pull the people into the downtown area.
Sure.
Once the bypass does get finished, it gives them a reason to come down and spend their money and hang out and see what other great things we have in the city of Aztec. Indeed,
and it already also aligns with the trail system and the bridge, the pedestrian bridge over the Animas River that links the ruins to downtown in a way, and it will do more of that.
And that's exactly what it's designed to do, is to that bridge. And have you been on it before? It's really cool. It's very.
I'm embarrassed to say I have not, so I need to get over there and do that.
Yeah. And so you come over the bridge, and it kind of drops you off right at the top of that extension. Where that will be. Mm-hmm. So. And I've talked to folks, and just a little shameless plug, I work with my Aztec JROTC cadets, work at Aztec Ruins with New Mexico Youth Conservation Corps every year. So we've played a huge role in the development of Aztec Ruins and the beautification of it. And we see visitors all summer long, and they're like, what is there to do in Aztec? Where else can we go? And with just a few exceptions, there's not a lot to tell them. There's not really several places to stay. Boutique hotels, that kind of stuff. There's the presidential suites, on the south side of the city,
right?
And there's, the step back in. But as far as restaurants and things like that, and cool shops to go to, it's difficult to steer them in any direction. But hopefully, once this is completed, just keep walking across this bridge, and it'll dump you right off into this new area that the city's developed, and there's X, Y, and Z things to do, because I run into visitors from all around the country and even internationally that come to the UNESCO World Heritage Site that is Aztec Ruins, and it's really a jewel that I'm hoping as we move forward we'll be able to capitalize on those visitors and their tourist dollars.
Right. Very true. Well, and again, there's been a lot of planning involved with this, and I'll bring Andrew into the conversation here in just a second about some of the other efforts like MRA, Metropolitan Redevelopment Area for the downtown Aztec area that allows the city maybe to do more and the region to do more, and things along that line. So all these things, to me, seems like they're working together in alignment. You've got the path, you've got the bridge, the North Main extension will align right with that as well. So it's all coming together, and the timing seems to be pretty good, and you've got money to pay for it now, which is exciting.
And I just think that sometimes I think we could all, as men in our 40s and 50s maybe, that we recognize that sometimes timing is key to some of these things. And, this isn't to take away from any of the efforts, because if it weren't for the efforts of our predecessors, we wouldn't have been in these positions, these with like a shovel-ready project like the North Main extension. Something, credit that they have stuck with the bypass, the arterial route all these years, when others, with a little less, of a stomach would have abandoned it, and it would have been the road to nowhere with millions of dollars later. So credit to the folks that have preceded us and kind of handed the baton off to us, and we're very fortunate that things seem to be kind of lining up. And the timing's everything in some cases, and I'm happy to be able to see this project through and hopefully have them completed under our watch. So.
Right, which is be very exciting. So stay tuned, everyone. And again, I don't think the state just throws millions of dollars at a municipality if you don't have some plans in place and some studies to be able to show the state that here's what we want to use your money for, and we're ready to go. So that's kind of how it works. Andrew, let me turn the conversation to you a little bit. Andrew DiCamillo, who is a co-compliance officer with the city of Aztec. And so as all this is getting done, as the mayor describes, it is your job and the job of your department to go out and look for maybe properties that aren't quite up to snuff and enforce some of those code compliance rules and ordinances, and the city just adopted another one, correct, that hopes to maybe raise the quality of the buildings in the city of Aztec, both commercial and residential?
Yeah, absolutely. So about a year ago, I was hired on, and my director, Steven Saavedra, drove me around town and said, can we do something different than traditionally going after weeds and these types of nuisance issues that you normally utilize state statute to address those property issues. The International Property Maintenance Code, which 20 years ago I worked in the city of Albuquerque, that we introduced as an aid really for law enforcement and to get into living conditions and represent structures, was really kind of the answer that was able to produce for the city, so that we could go after. And some of these structures have been, they drove me around to see were vacant or burnt, and they've just been sat in that stage for decades, in some cases, or many years. And from city attorney to commissioners, really just never thought that there was a method or a way to address those. And this code, the certification, which is in line with building codes, so anything built in the county or in the city falls under a building code. This is kind of lower on the totem pole, but addresses kind of the same livability issues. And so we've had great success in it, and it's not only because of the code and the method that we're able to execute in that, and the reason why I'm sitting here is because of the political will behind it, and again, the law enforcement cooperation, along with other agencies, Adult Protective Services and Children, Youth and Families and Veterans Affairs, because when you get into the issues of why a home is sick, if you will, if it's in disrepair, and roofs leaking, or something as simple as that, I unfortunately, throughout the long tenure of working in this field, folks will heat their home with their gas stove and don't realize the dangers behind that. And,
right.
So there's a big educational component to it. I don't get involved with landlord-tenant issues, but in an effort for landlords to be better landlords and tenants to be better tenants, the code addresses both, unsanitary conditions for them and making sure the landlord is doing his job or her job to make sure that if the roof leaks, that they fix it.
Sure.
Those types of things.
Understood. But in a community like Aztec, which has a lot of older buildings, some historic buildings and things like that, does that mean there's more, I guess, potential for some code compliance problems if my house has been around for 100 years? I mean, that's maybe going to have more issues than a house that's been around for 20 years, perhaps.
Perhaps, yeah, absolutely.
I know they don't build them like they used to.
Right, and so that is correct. In another way, and as I mentioned with law enforcement, and unfortunately, criminal predicate sometimes runs parallel with substandard living conditions. And so partnering with, again, having the recipe for success with political will, working with other agencies like law enforcement to understand, I've got this house that's, obviously in disrepair, broken windows and things such as this. Sometimes the people are living with no utilities. And when we kind of get together, they say, well, there's a large presence of criminal activity as well. And so that's on the criminal side, I have nothing to do with it.
Sure.
But I definitely can work to the end of making it a better place to live for the folks there. So.
Right. And so take us through the process then. If there's a problem with a property, do you send a letter? Do you go out and visit the property to confirm that there's an issue, or talk to the property owner? How does the process get started, I suppose?
Well, and there's two ways, and because we're in Pleasantville, as I like to affectionately refer to Aztec as, and
Compared to Albuquerque?
compared to
You're right.
yeah.
I'll say it. You don't have to.
Yeah, thank
Okay.
you.
Yes,
thank
sir.
you. And most other places actually that I've been to, but yeah, that's probably
No offense,
accurate.
Albuquerque, but come on, get your stuff together.
Yeah, thank you.
Go ahead.
Exactly. So it'll either start out with a complaint or what we call proactive, where just you drive around and you see that one house that kind of sticks out in the neighborhood as just having an excessive amount of issues, inoperable vehicles, like I touched on, broken windows and stuff like this. If it's occupied, then I do send an initial letter. Sometimes depending on the severity, it's a courtesy notice. Just hey, letting you know that. Oftentimes, that's how we start off with the weeds issues. Is just
Right.
let you know it is an ordinance, and we'd like for you to clean your weeds and stuff like this. And then it'll escalate up to notice of violation, to what the new code called out, which is a notice and order. So you're notifying them of the violations of the code, and again, depending on severity, and ordering them to take action. So you're ordering that property owner, or sometimes even the tenant, to repair, or if it's severe enough, to vacate the unit. So that gets a little tricky when you're basically ordering people out of their home because it's that bad. And what we've even come across in a couple of cases is to demolish a property because, again, there was a unit in a neighborhood that was burnt and was left basically, with just the walls.
Couldn't be
And-
salvaged, probably, right? Or repaired in a timely manner, I suppose.
Exactly, or they just didn't have the money or able to do it, and so that's something where we said, well, we order it demolished. The city does allow for up to a year to these units to stay in that condition, and for folks to kind of get their
Gotcha.
ducks in a row to repair it. But after that, and again, I was blessed with the fact that these property owners were willing to also follow through with that order.
Right, and that was going to be my next question to you, and Mayor, chime in if you'd like to as well. Is that I don't think the city is wants to put anyone, fine anyone, or put anyone into legal jeopardy. You just want to get these properties improved and safe, and that's kind of the idea. And so they have a certain amount of time to do this.
Uh-huh.
If it's an elderly property owner, is there something else that the city can offer to maybe help them get their property into compliance if perhaps they can't do it physically themselves or afford to hire someone to do it? I hear that all the time from some folks that are trying to maintain their property but simply maybe cannot
Right.
in a timely
Yeah,
manner.
and that's always been the challenge, and it continues to be the challenge, is to help folks. And again, sometimes, and with the law enforcement folks, we're dealing with elderly people who are being exploited by,
Right.
again, unfortunately, by their own family, because they're getting their Social Security or disability check, and the grandchildren or children that are living there are living off them, but don't, and they either are involved in criminal activity or they're also just contributing to the deterioration of the property.
Gotcha.
We've had a couple of instances now working with our senior center, who's a direct conduit to Adult Protective Services, to go over and offer assistance to clean up a house, because some of our elderly, they have issues and are, where they are unable to clean up after themselves or after their animals in a lot of cases, and so that's an ongoing challenge. The three biggest agencies that I hope to gain better contact with and more coordination are Children, Youth, and Families, the Veterans Affairs, Adult Protective Services, such as this, to so that we're not. And again, traditionally, code compliance is a punitive action, and we don't want to be so heavy-handed. We truly want to, make their home and their living better
Sure.
and safer. So-
Right. Got it. All right. And I know a lot of folks might say, well, what about the city buildings? Are they all in compliance as well? Are their weeds all trimmed and everything else good to go? I mean, is that's something you have to follow as well, do you not? Or the city needs to?
Absolutely, yeah.
If it's on the books, it's on the books.
Right.
Right? Okay.
Yeah.
All right. We have just a few minutes remaining, gentlemen. And Mayor, I want to ask you a bit about Riverfest, because I know it is a Farmington event, but yet Aztec is involved too, and there's a new event this year for Riverfest, and you're kind of putting out a challenge this morning, perhaps.
I'm throwing the gauntlet down to my colleague Mayor Duckett. I just found out the other day I think the folks from San Juan Citizens Alliance are sponsoring the event, the first annual. I don't know exactly what they're calling it. We're going to call it a raft race.
Okay. A river raft race, right? Exactly.
Right.
During Riverfest.
During Riverfest on Saturday.
Yes.
Saturday afternoon, I think we're launching at noon. Currently, the plan is to leave from Penny Lane Dam and to race furiously into Farmington, kind of in the middle of the crowd in downtown where the fest is taking place. I'm excited that the mayor's doing it, and I say it in good fun. I'm competitive by nature, and I'm excited. Hopefully we're gonna have what it takes to squeak out even if we finish second to last. I want to beat Nate Duckett's raft, so we need to squeak that out. So
there's the gauntlet.
So there's the challenge,
yes.
and I'm excited to have a good time. I know they've talked about this for a long time about doing something on the river like this, and we've been so fortunate to have the heavy snowpack and the runoff. So last year we couldn't even consider it, but this year it's going to be exciting and just another reason to get folks out and about and to see a little friendly competition and a little ribbing and that kind of stuff, and have a great time at one of what's turned into one of the kind of marquee events to kick off the summer here in our region.
Very true, and it should be exciting. So there will be a Aztec City raft in this race, is what you're telling us.
Yes,
and
myself, Mr. DiCamillo sitting to my right, his supervisor Steven Saavedra, and our city attorney Nikki Unsicker are going to be out there. All the rafts have professional guides. They're going to provide all the gear. There's a small entry fee, and then there's a small prize for the winners. But it's more of bragging rights as far as I'm concerned. So
that's true for you. That's true.
Yeah,
I
I'm
think,
excited.
and maybe Mayor Duckett. We'll
Right.
see. But there you go, Mayor. So we'll see what happens. But I know that is one of the events, and if you want to get a group together and join this raft race, that is still possible, as we mentioned on the Riverfest website.
Right.
To do that as part of the events on Saturday. And Mayor, one final thought, one final question to you. You gave me a card this morning. So what does this mean, Mayor Snover?
That means that I am, what do they call it? They call it testing the waters.
Okay. Exploratory committee.
I'm exploring a possible run for what's going to be the vacant seat for our current Congressman, Ben Ray Lujan, who, as many know, has thrown his hat in the ring for what's going to be retiring Senate Tom Udall's seat.
Right.
So,
So District 3.
I'm just checking it out. I'm seeing New Mexico Congressional District 3. It's essentially the northern, probably 40% of the state.
Right.
It's probably it's a fairly large district, and I'm excited to once school's over and in between my mayoral duties and city commission duties to get out and about around the northern part of the state and talk to folks about some of the issues that concern them, and hopefully that they think I have the right ideas and plans to help further their positions and their issues in the state and the country.
Sure. Well, good luck, and let us know what you decide. I guess we will. We'll decide. You haven't filed anything yet, as you were telling me.
I haven't filed with the FEC yet, but it's we'll see. We'll see how things go. I'm excited to meet folks around this part of the state, outside of San Juan County. This is kind of unusual for this. There's not generally somebody from this part of the state that enters a race like this. It's generally folks from the Santa Fe, Albuquerque area, but in our case, in our district, it would be the Santa Fe area. And so getting my name out there, getting a little more coverage and kind of elevating my profile, so to speak, and talking to voters and listening to their concerns and how I feel like I might be able to help be the person to help solve some of those issues moving forward. So,
well, I know what you're doing this summer, I guess.
Yeah, absolutely.
When you're out of school.
I'll be busy, but it's exciting.
All right. Mayor Snover, always a pleasure. Thanks for coming in this morning.
Thank you again. Hope to be back soon.
I hope you will. You're welcome anytime.
I'll give you an update.
Please do. Let me know how that goes. All right. Andrew DiCamillo, thank you for coming in as well. Good luck with code compliance and all the other issues that you're involved with, too.
Yeah, thank you very much.
All right.
Good to be here.
You bet. Thank you both very much, my guests here on KSJE. And I'll be back with more in just a moment, everybody. The time is 8:49. This program is supported by San Juan Regional Medical Center, who's expanding its services to offer low-cost blood screenings all year round, now offering walk-in convenience to get the blood tests you want when you want them. MyLabs, patient-ordered testing, is available in Farmington at the hospital's laboratory and the Outpatient Diagnostic Center on 30th Street. Also in Aztec at San Juan Health Partners Family Medicine at 120 Llanos Street. With nearly 20 tests available, there's an option for everyone. MyLabs, patient-ordered testing, a wellness service of San Juan Regional Medical Center.
Each week on Celtic Connections, we bring you the finest of traditional and contemporary Celtic music from Ireland, Scotland, England, Wales, and North America. Tunes you can tap your toes to, and songs that will transport you to misty mountains and moors. This is Brian Kelso-Crow inviting you to join me for Celtic Connections.
Listen to Celtic Connections every Saturday afternoon at 1 on KSJE 90.9 FM, Farmington.
Hi, this is Sergio Miałniszenko with the Brazilian Hour. I would like to invite you to join me every week with the best and most exciting music of Brazil. Every week, right here.
Tune in the Brazilian Hour every Saturday night at 11 on KSJE Farmington.
On the Media is all about print, broadcast, and the internet.
And civil liberties, we do a lot on that.
The show is about technological utopia and creepy dystopia.
Law and lawbreakers.
Blowhards and liars.
Mainly, though, On the Media is about an hour. Please spend it with us.
Saturday mornings at 7 on KSJE Farmington.
This is the Mental Health Minute with Dr. Ariel Leese.
Mindfulness is paying attention to the present moment, noticing the world around you and becoming aware of your thoughts and feelings. With practice, mindfulness can help you and your child better manage stress and anxiety, even symptoms of ADHD. For example, practice mindful eating or taking the time to really enjoy a meal. Instead of rushing through it, eat slowly.